and a fire that burns for more than an hour before firefighters can put it out.
As a result of strikes, there is a fire at the nuclear power plant. I repeat, as a result of strikes by Russian Federation forces on the nuclear power plant, a fire has erupted.
The town mayor pleading for the fighting to stop.
I ask you to come to your senses and immediately stop firing at the nuclear power plant.
Ukraine's president issues a dire warning of the consequences of the attack.
If
there is an explosion, that's the end for everyone, the end for Europe, the evacuation of Europe. Only urgent action by Europe can stop the Russian troops. Do not allow the death of Europe from a catastrophe at a nuclear power station.
Firefighters were eventually granted access to the site and put the fire out.
Taking out a reactor's grid connection in and of itself won't lead to an accident, but it is the removal of one layer of defense for the plant. And in a war situation, there is a concerningly high chance that those other layers of defense will be stripped away as well.
The nuclear facility's 6 reactors are located near the town of Energodar, an area contested by the Russian military and its separatist allies. The nuclear plant has been the site of defiant resistance by ordinary Ukrainians, using themselves as human shields to keep Russian troops away. The reality of a nuclear disaster is all too real to these people. In 1986, the Chernobyl nuclear plant exploded, thousands of people dying of the consequences of radiation and leaving a huge area of the country uninhabitable to this day. It is one of only 2 nuclear energy accidents rated at the maximum severity, the other being the 2011 Fukushima disaster in Japan.
We're very relieved, and I think possibly, what Japan has spent a lot of time doing over the last couple of years has been to put in anti-terrorism renovations at the various nuclear sites around Japan.
In the eastern city of Kharkiv, too, people wake daily to scenes of terrible destruction and a fast-rising civilian death toll.
Look what Putin is doing. This is a war crime committed against the civilians, against the city of Kharkiv.
This city of 1.5 million people, most ethnic Russians, is being torn apart by Russian forces for no reason other than that it exists just across the border from Russia in Ukraine. And in the far south, Ukraine's biggest port, Odessa, is under threat too. Here, frantic efforts have been underway for days to build defences against a possible beach landing. Multiple vessels belonging to Russia's Black Sea Fleet hover on the horizon, including landing ships and support craft. Ukraine's military is very much still in this fight, reinforced by supplies of weapons from abroad. They've been able to apply real pressure to the Russian advance, slowing the progress of a vast column of armour, artillery and soldiers heading for the capital, Kyiv. Along its route, once sleepy commuter towns lie in ruins, a foretaste of what may be in store for Kyiv, the apparent aim to encircle the city and besiege it. From his bunker under heavy guard, President Volodymyr Zelensky wages a relentless communications campaign, rallying resistance and calling in foreign support.
We have been saying this for a long time, that Ukraine is seeking for protections for our home soil and our own people, but such protections have not been provided. European countries assisted us with the waves of migration. However, we should discuss the guarantees that are required to protect our country, our home soil, and our people.
A second round of talks on Thursday between Russia and Ukraine at a location on the border with Belarus came with low expectations of a breakthrough, but a slim glimmer of hope that they're taking place at all. The Ukrainian government, meanwhile, has called for humanitarian corridors to be set up. And here in the western city of Lviv, volunteers are hard at work processing aid donations, medicines, clothes, food and other essentials for distribution across the country. There is a humanitarian crisis erupting on multiple fronts, not just the internally displaced who've left everything behind in a scramble for safety across the country's borders, as more than 1 million have done since the invasion began, but also huge populations in urban centres, trapped, terrified, and desperate for help. Civilian morale will vary now in a population increasingly terrorised. There'll be desperation in some places, determination in others. A spontaneous rendition of the national anthem at that aid station in Lviv. It is becoming ever clearer that the struggle is not just for personal survival, but for the survival of the nation as a whole. Jonah Hull, Al Jazeera, Lviv.